Watkanurado Sewuego, and welcome to another edition of Onkwarihwa'shon Television. I'm Joe Delarone, and our guests today will be Gahande Horn-Miller, and to start off the program from the Kahnawake MCK Lands Unit is Heather Jacobs-White. She's been working on the sanitary conditions law, the amendments to the law, and all of the processes that go with it. Of course, if you've been watching the program at all over the last 5 months or so, we've been talking about the community decision-making process, the Legislative Coordinating Commission, and all of that. So a good time today to talk meat and potatoes about one of the pieces of legislation that's in the hopper right now, and actually going for a second round of community consultations. Welcome to the program.
Nyawa, Joel.
Yeah, good to see you here.
Well, thank you very much.
I know you've been hard at work on this project now for several months, and maybe you can start off by just talking about what your position is with the Lands Unit, and then some background on what's been going on.
Good. I'm the Lands Unit Research and Policy Analyst / Developer, and I work on lands issues, producing lands documents, and so I'm no stranger to asking for opinions, asking for consultation. I'm no stranger to that. I think this is a really good part to get a full view of an issue, because as one person you see one thing, but as many people you see many things, and I just think community consultation is the way to go.
Well, when it comes to Kahnawake laws, we've been talking about Type 1 legislation, which is laws that I guess affect everyone in the community, and you know, when you have the Justice Act that is being worked on, and the Membership Act that will be coming up later on. The membership law is going to be worked on, other things. Some are a little more specific, and those are called Type 2, and they're more of a regulatory nature, and they're regulations based. The law that we're talking about here is not a new law, and I guess no matter how many times you put it out there, people don't hear it the first time, so you have to kind of keep saying it over and over again.
Yep.
The law that we're talking about, the Sanitary Conditions Law, is from 1968. It's been amended a couple of times. Now, one of the problems we have is that in order to create regulations that we very obviously need, we have to change the law so that the law allows for that to happen. It sounds very technical, but if we don't, if it just went to Chief and Council to do it, we'd actually be breaking the law by not following the process. So that's where you came in.
That's where we came in over at Lands. We were faced at Lands with some issues regarding potential environmental contamination and risks to public health and safety. So when the Lands Unit was looking at how to respond to this, one of the things we looked at is we reviewed the laws and thought about, like, what kinds of law can support us? And there was really no law to support us directly. The only one that came close was the Sanitary Conditions Law, because as the name implies, it's a law on sanitation, keeping things clean, order, public health and safety, that kind of thing. There was also mention in the law about landfill, you need a permit. So that was our in. So we looked at that law and thought, well, what is the issue that is facing us? And it was businesses in the community currently and in the future that could potentially contaminate the environment.
Today, I guess the community wants to draw, and has been for a long time now, saying that's it, we draw the line on certain things, but it does become difficult to enforce when the regulations are either unclear or don't exist, or the law is very vague. The law was created in 1968. What did we need to do here in order to move it to something that's workable?
Well, the big piece we wanted to put in for this amendment was to have a statement in there that allowed us to write regulations. Because regulations are different from a policy or a guideline. Regulations are directly connected to laws. It's how you exercise the law through a regulation. So what Lands Unit was looking at was, how do we respond and protect not only the environment from contamination, but any kind of risks to public health and safety from that contamination. And we thought that, well, we need to put in regulations. We know that we have businesses operating currently working with demolition waste recycling. And those businesses that are currently operating don't have regulations, they don't have guidelines, they don't have anything to let you know this is what you need to keep in mind.
And that's not to say that bad things are going on.
That's not to say that at all.
It's just that if it were to be, then there's nothing or very little to help the community to deal with this.
The piece about that, Joe, is that it's unknown. There's unknown material coming in, unknown if there's contaminants. We just don't know. And so it's a responsible action, not only on the part of the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, but on the part of the Lands Unit to look at this and see what we could do. And what we thought we could do was amend the sanitary conditions law.
And you've also been working, of course, with the Environment Protection Office.
Absolutely. This is an environment file at the end of the day. I'm the technical person bringing it through the processes that exist, which is the community decision-making process. So I do the technical work to get this done. I'm also a primary writer on what's it looks like. So what we needed to do is make an amendment. So we're not rewriting the whole law, we're not changing the whole law, we're making an amendment. And an amendment, just to be clear, only changes a piece. It only changes a piece of the law. We were given from Chief and Council a scope. A scope is what we work within. And anything outside of that is not what we're doing. This is what we're doing. If you don't have a scope, you don't know when to stop. You don't know how far to go. So we had a scope. We got a scope from Chief and Council, working collaboratively, recommending and discussing and consulting. So we got our scope, and that's what we worked in. And the scope was mainly to make an amendment or a small change to the law so that we could write regulations, and also put in a piece that allows us to monitor these types of operations. So it's not just demolition waste recycling, it's not just landfill activity, it's any business operation that has potential to contaminate the environment by not having some guidelines to work it within, and also put your head where it needs to be in terms of what's coming in and what's going out.
Interesting is that as we talk about this, it would seem that this is something that 99.9% of Kahnawake would easily get behind, and to the point where this would all be automatic. We don't even barely need a consultation because we're all here to protect the environment or whatever. But so far we've gone through one hearing, the first 30-day process and the hearing, and then now we go to a second. So what's taking so long?
What's taking so long? Well, the process that we go through for the community decision-making process has several pieces. One piece is to actually draft what you're doing. So we work with the technical team, and everybody, looks at it and puts in their 2 and 3 cents, maybe sometimes 5 cents, and we write it, and then we present it to Chief and Council and say, you know what, this is what we think. And we again have modifications and little tweaks. And then in the process, it's put it out for a 30-day review. So we put it out. We have it at, in this case, it's available at the Capital Unit reception, as well as the MCK main office reception, as well as on the website, GahnawagaMakingDecisions.com. So you have areas to get the document, and if you pick up the document, it looks like this. There's a cover page that gives you some background points and also identifies what exactly changed from the last time.
That helps.
And as well, everything that's changed in the document is highlighted well, when you print it out, it's gray, but on the website, it's cool yellow.
Yeah, some of the stuff, of course, is the changes. Others are I would say, almost cosmetic, because in order, nowadays, we spell Kahnawake with the glottals and the this and the that. So all the Kahnawagas have been changed, and those are all highlighted, and things like
everything.
that.
From A to of, it's highlighted. You see everything that was changed. So you go through the 30-day process, then all the feedback and opinions and everything comes to me. I do analyses and I make recommendations, and then we bring it to a reading where it's a physical reading. You read the law out loud. I present the feedback received from the 30-day review, and then discussion ensues. People have an opportunity to say something about the content or whatever they want to say about whatever. And then if there's changes again that are recommended in our scope, we will make recommendations to Chief and Council and say, this is what we recommend to change. And then we go to what is called a legislative session. So there's bring it to Chiefs, bring it to a 30-day review, bring it to a reading, and then bring it back to Chiefs in a legislative session. And that's just the first piece. It takes a while.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And you know, the timing, it was summer. People were not really around all that much to collaborate.
And to put it out to the community, and that's why this one is a type 2, because since the law already exists, to recreate or start over and create a whole new law, well, it's been 2 years for the Justice Act. It takes a while, and since this is all still fairly new, the community decision-making process, if you've been watching this program, you know what we're talking about. If you've participated, you know what we're talking about.
Yes.
And one thing that I guess if we get specifically back into this is the first hearing went well in terms of the feedback, because it did happen that I guess most people said, yeah, we need this. Obviously, we need this stuff. What were some of the problems or some of the concerns that came up in the hearing?
Well, some of the community feedback we received in April, which was the 30-day review, and May, which was the first reading, involved areas of the law that were there since 1968, like tainted food, like animals, dead animals, like you can't have scrap in your yard, and you can't put up a sign. What we need to remember, Joe, is that this law was created for the issues of the day in the 1960s. If people were adults with families and homes, I'm sure you can recall some of the issues of why this law was created. So that was one part. The part we really wanted, and the part that most feedback involved, was operating permits. Because we did have a section drafted up in the amendments of the law, whereby there was a section on operating permits, where you need to get a permit to make sure that you're being monitored for health and safety, preventing environmental contamination. There was people opposed to that section. They didn't want permits.
Was this business people or community members?
No, these were definitely business people. I think because this was the first round out, it wasn't 100% clear what amendment was, and am I looking at the entire law? So it was a good learning for everyone involved.
I'll be honest, I mean, even for the people who were involved in the process, it was a learning experience. Mistakes were made and acknowledged and changed. Yes. So as we get to this 30-day hearing. It's underway now as we speak. How long is it going till?
It's going to go till October 18th. So I counted 30 days.
So that'll be a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so.
Okay, so basically, people, you show up, take a look at the law, or go online and just contact Heather, or you can contact Eva Johnson as well at Kahnawake Environment Protection Office. The numbers are all available for everyone to see, and but certainly the information is there. Any questions at all? I guess the best resource is Heather at this point, because she's written everything, and you know, you've been part of it from moment one. So I guess that just about is all the time we have, Heather, but it's been great to have you here.
Thank you.
Certainly a wealth of information, and certainly a lot of hard work has gone into it so far, and best of luck.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with Gahande Horn-Miller after this.
Want to give away?
A message from the MCK Lands Unit. The second 30-day review of the draft amendments to the Sanitary Conditions Law commenced on Monday, September 19th and will end on Tuesday, October 18th, 2011. The latest draft of the proposed amendments is available at the MCK Lands Unit Reception, MCK Main Building Reception, and online at KahnawakeMakingDecisions.com under the Proposed Legislation tab. Feedback can be given by calling the Lands Unit at 450-638-8244. Once the 30-day review is completed, community members will be invited to a second reading of the draft where feedback will be shared.
And welcome back to Onkwarihwa'shon Television. I'm Joe Delaronde, and joining us for the second half of the program is a person that you'll probably be seeing more often on the program as time goes on, because she's about to be hired as the new coordinator for the Kahnawake Legislative Coordinating Commission. As you view this, if you view it early, she'll be the upcoming coordinator. Later on, she'll be actually the coordinator, because the job starts early October.
On the 5th.
Well, welcome along to the program.
Thank you.
And welcome along as the coordinator. As I guess most people would expect, it's going to be a challenging job. It's something new in Kahnawake, the Legislative Coordinating Commission, which brings forth the community decision-making process and keeps it going, and something new in Kahnawake, and now you're going to be coordinating the whole effort. So what made you say, when the job came up as a full-time job, and Linda, I think we mentioned this on a previous program, she'd been doing the kind of half job, doing it part-time, but there's so much work that we said it's time to get a full-time person, and we put the call out there. You answered the call among several. What made you say, I think I'd like to try this?
Well, for those of you who don't know out there, I completed a doctorate in the humanities about going on 2 years now. And my doctorate is in the area of political science, history, and cultural studies. It's multidisciplinary. And throughout my years in doing my master's and my PhD, I did a lot of research on and trying to theorize and understand about our traditions and how they apply today. I've always brought the old into the new in a lot of my writing and thinking that I do, academic thinking. To me, the idea of doing consensus-based decision-making today in this community is something that is very interesting to me as a scholar, also as someone who views their education as something to be brought back to the community and utilized here in a very productive way. I could have very well sat back and continued to just do writing and research on it and not really apply the knowledge that I have, but I would like to be able to apply it. So when the job came up, that's what really struck me, was that here's a process that my ancestors used, and it was very effective. And it can be used today, and it is being used today, and I'd like to see it grow and continue. It's,
in some ways, it's a small circle that is being completed here, because some of that work that you did, actually, Chief and Council took a look at it and said, this is kind of what we want to do. So some of the work that you did in the past was applied to the community decision-making process, yeah. And now you're going to be actually coordinating it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gotta
I'm very excited. I'm actually looking forward to the challenge. I've looked for this kind of a challenge for some time and wondered how I could best use my academic background to further the goals and the development of our community.
You use the word challenge. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you foresee?
I think one of the biggest challenges that I have is to get people in the community to see the merits of consensus-based decision-making, to get people on board with participating and contributing their voice to the process and to making laws for this community.
Mm-hmm. For the longest time, people have been saying that they want to do this. Is the community ready for this? How are we going to get the community to engage more? Because there was a lot of talk when the community decision-making process began. And though I would say that, especially the first meeting, there were about 75, 80 people there, and the participation was good, but then it kind of dropped off and dropped off. Yeah. Is the community ready for this, or are they too busy, or how are we going to do this?
I think that we're all busy in our lives. We all have to make a living. We all have children to raise, things to do. But all in all, I think that the community is ready. I think we've been ready for quite some time to find another way to participate in a productive way. There is a lot of criticism. There always has been a lot of criticism of the way that the federal government has imposed its ways and laws on our people. And we've always, I've heard through talking with family members, through talking with other community members, that we want some other way. We don't value that that imposed system. So, looking back to in our traditions, here's a good example. Here's a good way to do it. I think that people should be encouraged to step up and participate as best as they can.
Are there some things that you've thought about that you think might help get people engaged and interested and reinvigorated to say, yeah, let's go and do this?
I think with knowledge and understanding comes participation. People will be better mobilized, better empowered to participate in the process if they understand it better, and how our ancestors used it, how it worked for them, how it's been used since then in, for example, the research setting, which is where I've taught it, how it's been used in the Longhouse, and then carrying it forward, how can it be used today? I think with that kind of knowledge and understanding will come a better, perhaps better numbers of people participating. But I think that's one of my challenges, is how do you communicate what the power of that process is to the community? What is at stake? What is their relationship to that process? In essence, what is their relationship to our ancestors and how they use that process? I think if you can communicate that in a way that speaks to them today as people of this community, then that's the way to get them to participate in it.
Just knowing who you are and your background, knowing you teach, you have children, you have this very challenging job. How are you going to reconcile all of that? Because there's so much to do, but there's only one Gahanda at this point. It's going to be, even that part, I guess, is going to be somewhat of a challenge.
Yes, it will be. I have the fortune to have a very supportive family. I have sisters and a mother who value communal kind of a lifestyle with the family. So in essence, when they say it takes a community to raise a child, well, in this case, we're living it out. It's our whole family that raises our children together, and we work hard at that. You talk about the traditional values and all of that, growing up with a lot of it. One thing, and I guess we would be remiss if we did not discuss it head on. People are going to say, well, why are you even participating in this? This is an MCK initiative. This is council. This is the federally imposed council system, and here you are involved.
Are you expecting some criticism from some corners, and how are you going to deal with that?
Of course, there's criticism. The way that I would address it is that, from what I understand, the ultimate goal is to make this process a separate process from the MCK.
That's correct, yeah.
And I hope to be part of that, making that a separate process. And that will be one of my goals, is to see how do we do that, how do we make it work as separate from the MCK.
We, in this community, and I'm now of a certain age where I can call back a lot of history, I know that in the past, some people are very threatened by someone who has a lot of education, and there are many like that, and maybe less so today, but there still are. And you know, we don't have that many people we have a lot of people who have a BA. We have more who have, you know, a master's. Much fewer who have a doctorate. A lot of work went into that.
Yes.
There's some obvious positives here, but will that scare a few people? Do you think that, look at her, she has all of this, and maybe she's going to scare us all?
I think people that know me, and more people are getting to know me as I'm doing more in the community, in terms of, and making it known that I have this piece of paper, essentially. They know that I'm...
Several pieces of paper.
Several pieces of paper, yes. They know that I'm more about encouraging others to do and achieve their, to the best of their ability. And that's what I feel that I've done, regardless of it being a substantial piece of paper, shall we say, or being able to call myself Dr. Horn-Miller or putting the PhD behind my name. I'm more about, I've used the gifts that I have, which is my brain, my writing, to get me to this point where I've developed it. I have the credibility outside the community, but I also have the skills that I learned in obtaining that degree or those degrees, and I bring those skills. It's more about the skills and bringing that back to the community than about bringing a piece of paper back to the community. And I think if people understand that about me, they'll be more open to just talking with me, because ultimately I'm from this community. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm an auntie, I'm part of it, and that's more prevalent to me and more important to me than me being an academic. Yeah. And having a PhD behind my name.
Yeah. As we kind of look toward the end of the program here, I guess first things first will be to get to meet the people who are involved in the process and all of that. Anything specific that jumps out at you is going to be a challenge? Because you know, I think while the CDMP had started, you had been engaged in other things, and you hadn't actually seen it in action, so to speak. But so, what do you look at as the initial thing, the initial challenge to get rolling?
To understand how it's worked so far, to understand the community's viewpoint on it. It's more about educating myself as to the process as it is now, people's impression of the process, people's application of the process, and from there I can, with a basis in that, I can take and do my job and grow from there, make it grow.
Yeah, well, it's a challenging job, but challenging jobs seem to be the ones that are very rewarding if you're able to be successful. So.
Yes, I hope so. I hope so. I take it as a learning experience, and I'm only going to do the best that I possibly can.
I think not only we're counting on that from the Mohawk Council perspective, but I think a lot of community members are looking for that as well, and hoping to see a genuine movement toward a certain direction that everyone can be more comfortable with, so that the community can make a decision as a whole and not just portions of it.
Yes, I agree.
All right, well, it's going to be a challenge, but we're so pleased to have someone of your caliber joining us to get this done, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Gahanda Horn-Miller is the new coordinator for the Legislative Coordinating Commission here in Kahnawake. And we'd like to thank Heather Jacobs-White as well for joining us on the program earlier. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time with more Onkwarihwa'shon television. Onkwarihwa'shon.
Kanya ke haga thadi adaraste kayerniga hiadu zawaderoru.